Hello everyone, this is Genius Yoshi, and today we're going to be rating some Ruby cards. Everyone's excited because everyone wants to make Ruby Amethyst stronger, right? So let's go quickly over the rating scale. 5 stars, amazing. 4 stars, great. 3 stars, not so great. 2 stars, we're starting to slow down quite heavily, and this isn't really good. And 1 star, well, I don't really know why they put this in the set. Maybe to trip players during draft. But for now, let's start reviewing some cards. Here we have Ballo, the fun-loving bear, balancing, grabbing a banana for 3, quest for 1 for 3. Actually, they're decent, aggressive stats, but it's just a vanilla character, and vanilla characters, well, sorry, it's too late. With 1 set you were barely played, with 2 sets you will no longer be played, and you will be part of the binder with those banana peels. No, don't put banana peels in binders. Sounds like a bad idea. We have Boon, the Precocious Entrepreneur, a 2-drop Inkable, 2/3, quest for 1, just a vanilla character. We actually have a bunch of characters with this stats line. They don't see any play, and neither will this card. Here we have Card Soldiers, full deck, 5/5 for 5, quest for 2. Slight power creep over something like a Jumba Jacuba. It's alright, I guess. I mean, Cerberus has seen some play, but I think we really want a bit more out of our 5 drops. Something with an ability, so I'm going to give it a 2-star rating. We're on the 2nd set with Rise of Floodborn, and I expect more than just vanilla stats. Let's take a look at our first Ruby Legendary, Donald Duck, not again! A 1/5 for 5 Inkable, quest for 1 with evasive. And he has the ability to quest for 1 extra lore for each damage on him. Okay, let's look at the floor on this card. So just a 1/5 quest for 1 evasive is utter trash. I'd rather have a Pongo, I'd rather have the new Minnie Mouse that quests for more and costs 3. Let's look at the ceiling. If he has 4 damage, suddenly he quests for 5, which is one of the highest amount of quests that any card can quest in the game. And he's evasive, so questing for 5, you're going to end the game very fast. So you can't really count on the opponent to put damage on Donald Duck. You're going to have to take matters in your own hands. Either it's through bad combats, where you'll use a combat to go and take 2 or 3 damage, and then you'll start questing for 3 or 4. Okay. If you can get 2 damage on him, that shouldn't be too hard. He suddenly quests for 3. Well, you've lost a turn doing a bad combat, for example, before you can start questing for 3. Well, in Emerald, we have a 3/3 for 5 Inkable that already quests for 3. So Donald Duck's not that much of an upside over it, and the floor is still much lower. You need to have that opportunity to deal damage to your Donald Duck. Now, maybe you can use some spells to deal damage on him. Sure, but wouldn't you rather just be spending the ink and cards to put another evasive threat on the battlefield instead? And replace Donald Duck by something else that's more meaningful? Yeah, probably. So, it's kind of difficult to find the perfect spot or use case to use Donald Duck, not again. And if you stack a whole bunch of damage on him, then he suddenly becomes very vulnerable to slight pings. Like, you stack him up, he's all ready to start questing for 5, and the opponent drops good old Tinkerbell. Goodbye, Donald. Thanks for dealing damage on your character for no reason, because I took him out before he could quest. So I think Donald Duck requires quite a bit of setup to get off of his floor and actually make it to better than some uncommon from Emerald. And then he becomes very vulnerable to small amounts of damage, and it potentially took him even more time to set up, do that combat first turn, or you've used an extra card, and most scenarios it's not worth it. So I'm going to give this card a 2-star rating, and this is the point at which you stop the video and go tell me in the comments of cards that I've forgotten that make this card amazing. But otherwise, my 2-star rating is going to stick. And sorry, Donald, not again. Here we have Felicia, always hungry, a 3/1 for 1 Inkable. with Reckless, so with a downside. This card is interesting. Why? Well, because she punches above her weight, kind of like Gaston has been a staple in Ruby Amethyst, to just pressure out whatever the opponent's playing on the board. You're going to be trading with it, and even if it's a 3-drop, doesn't matter, Gaston's there. Felicia does essentially the same thing. In particular, Felicia can take out Simba. Because I mean, look at that cat. What do you expect a lion to do against a cat like that? What I don't like about Felicia is her 1 willpower, which means she's very pingable. In particular, Tinkerbell, Hans, Robin Hood, just ping her to death. Grab your swords, take her out, but then again, she's a 1-drop. You can't expect her to live forever. I think she's deserving a 3-star rating for punching above her weight, but the opponent can kind of bait her because of her recklessness, so she's usable, but be careful. Here we have Fidget, Radigan's henchman, 3-2 for 3, Inkable, quest for 1, evasive. So evasive characters are meant to sit back and quest, and quest, and quest, and the opponent can't do anything about it. But Fidget only quests for 1. So that doesn't feel like his purpose in life. He actually has the same stats as the Emerald Peter Pan that saw no play. Because with the 3 power, it wants to challenge, it wants to trade, but it doesn't have the stats to trade well enough. So it wants combat, but it's not as good as other combat-based characters. It wants to quest and be evasive, but it's not as good as other evasive-based characters. It really doesn't know what it wants and deserves the 1-star rating, as it's like a fidget spinner. You look at it for a few seconds, and then you realize that there's nothing there, and you move on with your life. Here we have Honest John, not that honest. I love the text on that. So it's a 2-3 for 3 non-inkable quest for 1. Each time you play a Floodborn character, the opponents lose 1 lore. This feels more like a multiplayer card for some reason, where you're kind of attracting the aggro of all the players because you keep on removing lore from them. Actually, probably not that great, and probably what Honest John did deserve is get the aggro of all the players once they catch up to his schemes. But let's think about it in the one-on-one type scenarios. 2-3 for 3, slightly weak stats. Doesn't have the combat power, doesn't have the lore, so you're really playing him for the ability. And problem is, Floodborn characters are mostly expensive. And what are you going to get out of this? You're going to remove 2 or 3 lores out of your opponent and have subpar stats on the 3-drop. Feels a little weak, especially since he is uninkable, so you're committing to playing Honest John, not that honest, every time you draw him. I don't like him. I think dropping 1 lore out of the opponent is not that great of an effect. And if the opponent's playing some kind of control strategy, then they're laughing because Honest John essentially doesn't have any impact on their game plan. I'm going to give him a 2-star rating because if you start stacking a couple of Honest Johns and have a mostly Floodborn Matters type of deck, because we have a couple of Floodborn Matters cards, and if you start stacking them, well, draining 1 lore, discard a card, and these kinds of effect on the opponent can start to stack up. But Honest John's not the best of them, and I'll stick with 2 stars. Here we have Lady Tremaine, the Imperious Queen, a non-inkable 6-drop 3-4, quest for 2. And she shifts 4, so you can play her early if you have the shift target. And when you play this character, each opponent chooses and banishes 1 of their character. Okay. So first of all, it's each opponent, so if you're playing a multiplayer game, that's a lot of value that you're getting. And a lot of hate. So you want to be careful about the politics involved, as she seems like a bad ruler. But let's focus on 1v1. First of all, when you get Lady Tremaine, you're forcing the opponent to lose a resource, and you're still getting fine stats for it. So even if the opponent has to sack like a 2-drop, it's probably still worth it. But if you can orchestrate a position where the opponent only has 1 big character in play, and you've been doing some combat, your Rafiki's been going to work because you're playing Ruby Amethyst, and your Maui's gone to town, and the opponent only just played a big Hades or an Elsa or something big, and suddenly Lady Tremaine is just hard removal for that 1 lone character, whatever its cost is on the opponent's side of the battlefield. And then it's a lot of value. It's a Maleficent Dragon ability 3 turns earlier. I really like that. We've seen that in other games like Magic, where just forcing the opponent to sacrifice something can be very, very good, unless the opponent's going wide. If the opponent's going wide, then you're into a bit of problem, and that ability is not going to be as good. And that's the problem with this card being non-inkable. If it was inkable, I'd say go ahead, play her a ton, but now I'm going to say instead, go ahead, play her a ton. She's still very, very good. And there aren't, honestly, that many ways to flood the battlefield. But if you have Lady Tremaine and you play a grab your sword to just clean up a little bit the field before you drop the Imperious Queen to make sure you take out something big, that seems like a good upside. Even the floor on this card is actually pretty good. The upside is just fantastic. I think this card deserves a full 5-star rating. I'd prefer her a lot more if she was inkable, but she would be broken at that point. I think she is very good, and Ruby Amethyst will be using her as an extra tool for removal, and your opponent has best be prepared. Here we have Lady Tremaine, Overbearing Matriarch, a 2/2 for 2, non-inkable, quest for 1, and when you play her, the opponent loses 1 lore if they have more lore than you. I mean, we already have an Aladdin that does that, that's inkable for 3, and the main reason why we're playing that Aladdin is to shift the big Aladdin on top of it, and because we don't have that many better options in Ruby, Lady Tremaine is not a better option. A non-inkable 2-drop's not what I want to see, especially with that kind of underwhelming ability. I'm going to give this card a 1-star rating. I think it's not even deserving the 2nd star. It's a trap. You should not be playing Lady Tremaine. Here we have Lumiere, the hot-headed Candelabra. A 7/7 for 7, quest for 2, inkable. It's very expensive and a vanilla character. I do not like it. There's much better things to do. In particular, Mickey Mouse Brave Little Tailor is stronger than that, just costs 1 more and is barely played. So I think this card is 1, 2, I don't know, 1-star character. It's not great, and I'm very disappointed that this is in the rare slot. Here we have Minnie Mouse, Stylish Surfer, a 1/3 for 3, inkable, quest for 2 with evasive. Okay. Well, you've probably heard me say that I really like Pongo right now, in just the first chapter. It's a 2/3, quest for 2 with evasive. So you sacrifice 1 power to play it 1 turn early. It seems like an improvement to me. It's an improvement over a good playable card. But the card pool has doubled. I still think she's a good playable card. It's one of the cheapest evasive that quest for 2 that's available, and she does her job well, which is go to quest on her surfboard and ignore everything else that's happening, like that cat that's in mortal danger. Next we have Minnie Mouse, Wide-Eyed Diver, 2/3 for 4, quest for 1, evasive, shift 2, and whenever you play your second action in a turn, she gets +2 lore for the turn. Alright, well, I think we need to compare this card to Pongo, because Pongo has the same stats line, except Pongo quests for 2. Minnie Mouse can quest for 3, but there's the restriction that you need to play 2 actions, which means that you need a bunch of very cheap actions, and typically the cheap actions don't impact the board too much. So overall, I think I'd prefer Pongo over Minnie Mouse in most situations. The shift 2's fairly weak. I mean, she's a 4-drop. You're going to be able to play her pretty early. If you're shifting on top of another Minnie Mouse, say the 1-drop Minnie Mouse, sure, you can get an evasive on turn 2, but you're questing for 1. It's not anything overwhelming. The power surprise to just challenge the opponent with 2/3 stats line, not overly impressive. Minnie Mouse Wide-Eyed Diver is a cool card. I like the effect, and I hope that we're going to get a Spells Matter type of deck where we're playing a bunch of small little actions and just spamming them, getting nice abilities like the Wide-Eyed Diver. But for now, I'm going to give Minnie Mouse a 2-star rating because she gets overshadowed by Pongo. Here we have Minnie Mouse zipping around, an Inkable 2-drop, 3-2, kind of reverse stats of typical vanilla characters, quest for 1, 0 to fun in under 3 seconds. Well, my review should be under 3 seconds and you should be rated 0. A 1-star rating it is. Here we have Mother Gottel, Withered and Wicked, a 3-4-4-2, Inkable, quest for 1, but when she enters play, she has 3 damage. So she's really 3-1 that can be healed. Okay, so 3-1 for 2 is a little weak, I'll say. Now we have Phil, that's a 3-1 for 2, and has, I was going to say a nice ability, which has somewhat positive ability. Mother Gottel doesn't have that. Well, her ability is I can be healed and become as good as a vanilla 3-drop that you don't want to play in your deck. Okay, so really you're playing Mother Gottel as a healing target so that you can trigger your healing based abilities. Maybe she sees some play in a Healing Matters deck as a target of healing where you don't need combat, you don't need other cards, she just comes in with the damage herself. And because of that, I'm going to give her a 2-star rating because by herself she's not that great. And in that strategy, she might have a home. I'm not sure you necessarily want to play Ruby with those Amber healing cards. I'm going to give her a 2-star rating and call it a day. Here we have Mulan, Soldier in Training, 4-3-4, Rush, quest for 1. Mulan is trapped between Rafiki and Maui. And Maui has much stronger stats, is Inkable, costs only one more. He does have Reckless, but rushing is all about the stats. And I don't really want to have a non-Inkable rush character in my deck. I mean, sure, Mulan can quest for 1, but that's not why you're playing the Soldier in Training. You're really playing her to rush into the fray, tackle something, take them down. Maybe if you're not playing Amethyst and you want a lot of rush characters, you can go with a pair of Mulans into a playset of Mauis. But overall, I don't think Mulan Soldier in Training is going to see much play. I'm going to give her a 2-star rating, mostly because of similarities with Rafiki, and Rafiki has done pretty well for himself. Next we have Namari, Nemesis, a 3-3-4, non-Inkable, quest for 1. So you're committing to playing Namari whenever you have her. What's her ability? Well, you can exert her, and banish whatever character of your choosing, preferably on the opponent's side of the battlefield. Okay, so this is a character that's actually a removal spell, but you can choose to trigger it whenever you want, as long as you have her on the battlefield. With the downside that you can't just remove the character on the turn you play her. So you have to get her to stick on the board, and if she sticks, then you have the ticking time bomb that you can just flip over and blow up something you want, which is very, very good. Non-Inkable, I don't really care. I want to play Namari pretty much every time. The fact that she can punch above her weight makes her very strong. She can basically punch out any character that's not going to remove her with their own enter the battlefield ability. So something like a Sapphire Hades or Maleficent Dragon's just going to take out Namari so they don't get taken out on the swing back with her ability. And because of that, well, it's just proof of how good she is. She's a magnet for all removal, because otherwise she's removal herself. And anything else that's just one of these powerful threats that you need to take out, like a Fairy Godmother, Namari is your woman, and she will take them out. Very strong effect. Also 3-3, you can even send her into a combat and then keep her for her ability, or send her to combat, force ready her, activate her ability to take out something. It's just such a great card, well deserving of a 5-star rating, and another great tool for Ruby to control the battlefield. Here we have Queen of Hearts, Impulsive Ruler, 2/2 for 2, Inkable, Quest for 1, Rush. She comes in, she challenges. She's kind of a cheaper Rafiki. Okay. But why is Rafiki so good? Because Rafiki takes down Lilos. Rafiki takes down the Simbas. Rafiki just comes in, takes out whatever the aggro players are playing right now. Okay. Queen of Hearts, 2 power. She dies the Simba and doesn't trade in any good way. That's a problem. It's a big problem. There's now the tree drop Prince bodyguard. Queen of Hearts just goes in and tickles Prince. She's not good at taking out bodyguards. She is decent taking out the heavy quester Pinocchio, Maleficent, and Lilo, so she might be a flex card to just, I catch my opponent off guard on turn 2, and they're not expecting the Queen of Hearts. But that is the very niche use where she's valuable. So maybe as a flex spot, the 2 of in your deck just catch the opponent by surprise if they're playing that very aggressive line. And then again, if they have a Simba, if they have a Prince bodyguard, it doesn't work. I'm going to give her a 2-star rating. She might see a bit of play, but I think the bodyguards are going to keep her in check. Here we have the Queen of Hearts, Sensing Weakness, a 4/3 for 5, Quest for 1. Stats slightly on the weak side for an Inkable 5-drop, but she shifts too, so you can play her super cheaply. Whenever one of your character challenges another character, you may draw a card. Ooh, that's a multi-card draw character with okay stats. That doesn't necessarily need any support. It counts if she does challenge. So you can play her, do 2 challenges, and suddenly you draw a bunch of cards. You can play her on an empty board, and then challenge with her next turn, you draw a card. And 4/3 is not that bad. I mean, she's smashable, which is a problem. I'd prefer 4/4 and make me feel a little bit less squeezy about her ability, but typically you just play her with a bunch of characters on the battlefield, and then you go to town and start your combat and draw a bunch of cards. Card draw is good. Repeatable card draw is better. Queen of Hearts is repeatable card draw by doing what you want to do anyways, which is challenge the opponent's characters. Fantastic card. I think she also deserves a 5-star rating. She's just really good. Maybe I shouldn't say this. Maybe she's a new Rapunzel, a multi-card draw character that can just take over the metagame. I probably shouldn't be saying this because I don't think it's good. It's really good. Let me know in the comments below whether you think Queen of Hearts, Sensing Weakness, deserves a 5-star rating or a 4-star rating, and whether she's just sensing a weakness in me as I'm reviewing her to give her that extra star. Let me know. Here we have a rat in a tux, Radigan, the very large mouse, a non-inkable 5-drop with not very large mouse type stats. I mean, it's 3/3, subpar. Quest for 2. And when you play this character, exert a chosen opponent has with 3 power or less, and choose one of the characters you have and ready them, and they can't quest. So you're really kind of setting up a combat between one of your other character and a weakling on the opponent's side of the battlefield. Is that really worth playing a non-inkable 5-drop with poor stats? I say it isn't. Inkable, maybe you can use it as a flex spot because the effect is situational. You need to have a good combat already set up. You need the opponent to not have already exerted that character because otherwise, well, you're gaining maybe a lore or 2 based on whatever that challenging character can quest for. Or maybe you can enable a double combat. But for that, we have LeFou Instigator, which costs 2, is inkable, and 2/2 is almost as strong as the very large mouse. So I guess you're really paying to force exert an opponent's character, but that's not worth a non-inkable 5-drop. So overall, I'm going to give this card a 2-star rating. I can find some niche use cases for it, but overall, I don't think it's very good. Now we have Rya Headstrong, 2-3 for 3, quest for 1. Slightly poor stats for a 3-drop, but the ability. During your turn, whenever this character banishes another character in a challenge, you may ready her and she can't quest, but she can challenge yet again. Okay, but her stats are weak. What is she gonna banish? And if she does banish it, she gets a second combat. I mean, when is she gonna get 2 good targets? You almost need to have something. The opponent has a Simba and a Lilo, and then you have like a Phil, and then you play Rya. Well, no, Rya needs to already be on the battlefield, so the opponent knows about it. You need to boost the combat power of Rya, surprise the opponent, take out a Simba, then take out a Lilo or something. I don't know. This feels very, very, very situational. Actually, I should probably extend the video's time by like 15 seconds to just add varies to that. It's not gonna happen. Overall, I just prefer having stronger stats. Maybe even play some kind of wardrobe or anything with more stats if it's gonna be a combat-based card. This is just a weak card, and I'm going to give her a 1-star rating. Now we have the super rare Rya, Leader of Heart. 5-3 for 6, Inkable, quest for 2. So I don't like the 3 willpower on that. That feels a little weak. She's smashable, which makes her a bit squishy. She does shift 4. Okay. Whenever this character challenges a damaged character, she takes no damage from the challenge. Now that's fun, but it's only whenever she challenges. So she's gonna get very weak to a counterattack, which is a bit of a problem. But if you have some kind of setup where you can ping the opponent's character, exert them with like a Hans 13th in line and Elsa, and then Rya can keep on challenging, well, first of all, you're breaking the rules because you're playing 3 different inks. But if we ignore that, then you're getting into complicated setups to have this combat. And if Rya had a bit more willpower, like at least 4, she probably needs to be 5-5 to be good. Now she's okay, and I'm going to give her a 3-star rating because getting you free combat with a 5-powered character is pretty good, but the opponent's going to know about it unless you shift. But then again, you're spending 2 cards if you shift Rya and a whole lot of ink to get that good challenge in. It better be worth it, and I don't think I want to take that risk. So 3 stars it is. Here we have Rya Warrior of Kandra, 5-3 for 4, Inkable, quest for 1, same as the Ruby Scar that we have right now, which is nowhere to be seen in competitive decks or casual decks for that matter. And Rya is going to do the same, if not more poorly, since we have double the pool of cards and a lot more better options to play. Here we have Scar, Vicious Cheater, 6-5 for 7, non-inkable, quest for 2, so you better be prepared for his awesome ability. He has Rush, first of all, so he comes in, he fights, because that's what Scar does. He scars other people's. And Daddy isn't there to save you during your turn. Whenever this character banishes another one in challenge, you may ready him. And he can't quest for the rest of the turn, which means that he can fight, as long as he keeps on banishing the opponent's characters, he can keep on challenging. Okay, the ability's alright. But he's really a 6-5 rush character, so he's meant for combat. I don't like the fact... I don't really like characters that are 7 or even 6 and above and non-inkable. They must pack a very, very good ability to be worth it. I'm talking Hades, Infernal Schemer, and the big Amethyst Elsa. When you play these characters, they have a huge impact on the battlefield. Now what about Scar Vicious Cheater? Has some impact. He's alright. But my biggest problem with the card is that we already have Maui. Maui costs 5. That's a full 2 ink less than the Vicious Cheater. And Maui's inkable. Now you'll say, okay, but Scar can quest. He can quest for 2 lore. And he has this extra readiness. And he's not reckless. Okay. That's not worth 2 ink. I'm sorry, Scar. But you're gonna get left with the other Scars in the sorry there are better options pile. I'm going to give this card a 2-star rating, but I'm very disappointed for a legendary. Now we have Shcount, Menacing Predator, 3/3 for 3 Inkable, quest for 1. Okay stats line for a 3-drop, better than all of these 2/3s we've been seeing. Whenever one of your character challenges another character, gain 1 lore. That's a good ability. Note that it doesn't say whenever the opponent banishes an opponent character in a challenge. It says whenever you challenge, gain 1 lore. Remember those princesses that can all quest, and then you have Moana that says ready to arms, where they all become unexerted again? Well, with Shcount in play, as long as they have combat target, you can keep on gaining lores. There's a lot of these effects that says you cannot quest for the rest of turn, but you can have another combat if you so wish to. Well, with Shcount in play, that means more lore. You can even late game just sacrifice some of your characters to gain the lore through the combat, although you might be better just questing. But generating a bunch of lore off of Shcount is an easy thing to do. I mean, just stick him on the battlefield, play normally, get a couple of challenges in, and suddenly you're up to 3 lore, and that's a lot. And Shcount has decent stats to back it up. I really like this card. I think there might be some cool shenanigan combos that you can do, in particular if you're attacking into a wall or something that where you're not taking damage. Like you have a resist character that can keep on unexerting, then you can keep on challenging again and again, gaining 1 lore off of Shcount. I'm sure there's some kind of cool synergy, and I'm going to try and find it. There might be somebody else who'll find it before me, but if they do, I will present you my variation on that strategy. Or otherwise, I'm just going to be playing a nice Shcount deck, or Shcount decks. I mean, I really like this card. It's a nice Tigger. Also, the art is nice, but it's a good card. And I think I've talked a lot about this one. Gonna have to play it. You're gonna have to play it, and we're going to be roaring because it's fantastic. And we're gonna have kind of the same face as a Shcount, just a big smile with the glare of our opponents as we keep on accumulating lore. We have Tigger, one of a kind, the superhero pointing to the moon, where the value of the cards are going right now. 3/3 for 3 Inkable, quest for 1. Whenever you play an action, this character gets +2 combat power until the end of turn. So what? Even if it's a 5/3 for 3, I'm expecting a bit more out of my 3-drops, some kind of special abilities. I'd consider him about a 4/3 with no ability, which is a 1-star rated characters, and we will move on to the next card. Here we have Tuk Tuk, which came in like a wrecking ball as a 4/5 for 4 non-inkable with the downside of reckless. Why is this a rare? That's my question. Why is this not inkable is my second question. Even the vanilla 4/5 for 4 would be just okay. But you add in the downside of reckless and the downside of being non-inkable, and I don't want to commit to Tuk Tuk Wrecking Ball that can't even quest as a 4-drop with just stats. I think this card is pretty bad, and I'm going to give it a 1-star rating. If you want combat, just pay the extra ink and play some Mauis, please. Next we have Go the Distance, a beautiful song. At least I really like listening to it. And it's an Inkable 2-drop song, which says ready chosen character of yours, they can't quest, and you get to draw a card. Okay, I really like this. I'm kind of a fan of the cantrips, and this one has a nice benefit. Giving a second challenge to a character is actually pretty good. You can also use it just to protect a character, so you can sing that and get your Cusco unexerted and protected by his ward of infinite protection. So if you play this on characters with ward, you can quest and keep them safe forever, basically. And it's a song, so you don't even need to pay ink to play it as long as you have a singer available. 2-drop or less doesn't even cost that much. and it replaces itself as you get to draw another card. Overall, I think that's very good. It's the type of card that I'd want in my flex spots in a lot of decks. It's a nice song. Songs have proven to be powerful. It's a bit of a cantrip with a nice benefit and deserves a 4-star rating. This is good and it will go the distance. Next we have Teeth and Ambitions, a 2 Inkable song that deals 2 damage to a character of yours and 2 damage to a character, well, any you want, so mostly one of your opponent's character. I guess this synergizes really well with the legendary Donald Duck, since you can deal 2 damage to Donald Duck to deal 2 damage to Donald Duck, then suddenly you quest for 5. I mean, this is probably the combo with the duck, but you're sacrificing one very specific card to enable it. Anyways, we're not here to talk about Donald. We're here to talk about Teeth and Ambition, which, good combo with Donald. I'm not going to deny it. But outside of that, we have Fire the Cannons that deals 2 damage to anything. And it costs 1. Now this costs 2, and you have to take a bit of damage yourself. Doesn't seem like a good deal, even if it's a song. Overall, I don't like this card. You're dealing as much damage to both characters, it's costing you a card to do so. To me, that's mostly a no-no. It's going to be a Donald combo, and that's about it. 2-star rating for Teeth and Ambitions. Here we have the most Diabolical scheme, a 3-drop action song where you sacrifice a villain of yours to banish a character, hopefully of your opponents. I don't like the fact that you're 2-for-1ing yourselves with that. So you're playing the song and you're losing the character to take out 1 threat, so 2-for-1. Now if you're sacrificing a cheap 1-drop and this card to take out a 5, 6, 7-drop, then suddenly you might look like a hero or a villain that succeeded in a scheme. But in general, I don't like the fact that this is not inkable. So you're committing to playing your Diabolical scheme, which only works in very specific situations. You need that cheap villain, you need a valuable threat to make it worth it, and ideally you need a singer to sing this card. So I think this card only deserves a 2-star rating. Feel free to let me know in the comments below if you think I'm wrong about this card. Here we have What Did You Call Me? Radigan, all angry. 1-drop, Inkable, chosen damage character gets +3 power this turn. Oh, why do they keep on printing stuff like that? Even if it was just chosen character gets +3 this turn, it's completely unplayable and terrible. But now it's even more situational because you need a damage character. I wish I had a 0-star rating for these types of cards. 1 star because I can't go lower. You Can Fly, an Inkable 2-drop that gives a character evasive until the start of your next turn. So this is really a protective spell that just protects one of your characters from combat. Alright, and it's a song, so you can cast it for free as long as you have a singer. But it's costing you a card to protect one of your cards on the battlefield. You must really care about that card on the battlefield to try and protect it by giving it evasive. And it's still vulnerable to evasive threats. Overall, I think this is mostly unusable. Why? Because we have Go the Distance in the same ink that readies a character, which essentially protects it from combat. And both cards have the same, essentially the same ability, except that Go the Distance replaces itself by drawing an extra card. So why would you play You Can Fly? For the very specific situations where the opponent has something like an Elsa or something that will allow them to challenge a ready character, which there are very few cards with effects like that. And the cost of playing something that gives you evasive over something that readies your character and draws you a card, which just seems more flexible and better. Flying does look cool, both the artwork and it'd be nice to fly. But I think I will go the distance and leave flying for those with fairy dust. Here we have Dinner Bell. you know what happens. So basically this is about feeding on your own characters. So it's a 4-drop item, non-inkable, and you can activate it by exerting it, paying 2, and you sacrifice a character that you have, and you draw cards equal to damage that was on that character before you sacrificed it. This can draw you a lot of cards. If you have very high willpower characters, like a 5 willpower Merlin, for example, takes 4 points of damage, and suddenly, well, you go and eat your Merlin, draw 4 cards, which is pretty good. Situational, and you're losing a character. So you're losing tempo by playing Dinner Bell. You're losing tempo or spending ink to activate the ability to draw cards, and you're sacrificing a character to have that ability. So there is a heavy cost, but it's a repeatable source of card draw. It's kind of the yin and yang. Heavy cost, good benefits. Heavy cost, good benefits. Which one's going to overtake the other? Well, first off, it's a non-inkable, non-stackable item, so you don't want to play too many in your deck. Maybe it's a one-of type of item that can be useful from time to time. I'm going to give it a 3-star rating, mostly because it's not inkable. If it was inkable, I'd like it a lot more. To me, the cost is a little too high, but I'm ready to be proven wrong on this one. Here we have Peter Pan's Dagger, a non-inkable 2-drop item that gives your evasive characters +1 combat power. Why would I want to give my evasive characters more combat power? I typically just want to leave them alone, force my opponent to leave them alone, and keep on questing on the side until I win the game. That's mostly the point of evasive characters, isn't it? Maybe I'll do the odd challenge, take out the threat, and then just keep on questing in my corner. But I'm not going to be spending an entire card to give +1. I mean, that feels terrible. And it's uninkable, which forces me to commit to playing Peter Pan's Dagger. I'm sorry, but Peter Pan's Dagger is just going to remain in the log as I'll look for a better item. Maybe Excalibur is better. There should be an Excalibur in this set. That has to be better than Dagger, right? Here we have Sword in the Stone. Excalibur. Excalibur. I mean, how powerful do you expect Excalibur to be? Well, it's a non-inkable 1-drop item where you have to pay 2, and chosen character gets +1 this turn for every 1 damage on them. So you can give like +2 or maybe even +3 to a character. Well, that's mostly useless. And you have to pay 2 to activate that ability? I don't know. Doesn't seem great. It reminds me a bit of the Sport ability, which comes up once in a while. But I think I'd rather have a Scepter of Arendelle than a Sword in Stone, especially since it's inkable. Playing the Sword in Stone, you're committing to playing it because there's nothing else to do with it. So, not great in multiples either, because you have to pay every time. Your character must be damaged for this to do anything, otherwise you're paying 2 to give them +0. Good job. So, Sword in Stone, pretty terrible card. Just leave it in the stone. I mean, it's pretty hard to get out of there anyways, so leave it in the stone, leave it in the binder, and go find something else that's shiny to play with. I hope that you've enjoyed this set review for all the Ruby cards from Rise of the Floodborn, featuring some awesome artwork on Minnie Mouses doing a bunch of crazy things, as well as everyone's favorite Tigger, Shcount, which I'm really looking to making use of. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel to make sure you don't miss out on all of the awesome set reviews that are remaining, as well as gameplay and deck videos that will be coming soon and following throughout the set's life of Rise of the Floodborn and future sets in the future. I hope you've had a great time, and let me know in the comments below what is your favorite Ruby card of this set. I hope that you've had fun with the humor, and I'll see you next time.